Hey, what is guys, welcome back to this game's tutorial. Today we take care of the loot section. So we did the research, we did the word table and the stats. Now we do the actual loot. So as you can tell, we have all our loots in here. We have even the cat in capital letters, rock, log, silk, plank, and all that kind of good stuff. We're able to sell them, but we're also able to convert them. Now I don't have any currency right here, so just give me a second. I'm gonna give myself some currency. Alright, so I'm back. I gave myself some currency. As you can tell, I've got 456 rock, 400 silk, too many planks of course, and as you can tell, the sell for amount does match our number. It gets the good amount of things we need to sell, and yeah. So the buttons on the right over here, they're pretty much made so we can convert our currency at the rate of 10 of that very currency for 5 of the next one. Or you can also do it the other way around, spend say 10 silk and get 20 logs back. Like this. As you can tell, we went down by 10 and this went up by 20. Same thing goes, but when you do it the other way, you only get 5. So you spend 10, you get 5, and if you do it the other way, you spend 10 and you get 20. So guys, that is pretty much what we're going to be doing today, so without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so last episode we did the research, and that went quite well. It was fairly easy. This time we are going to do the loot, the one that just spawned out of nowhere. And it's a fairly simple one. It's going to be pretty much the exact same thing as there is in the game, except that we have an additional mechanic, which is going to be the converting of those things, of those loots. So we're going to be able to take, say, 10 rocks, convert it into 5 logs, or 10 logs converted back into 20 rocks. Something of the sort. So let's just go ahead and open up our menu. It is under UI root. Loot menu, let's give it a alpha of 1. And here is what we're going to be playing around with. So going to remove the text, expand it, maybe 700, something like that. And we're going to be doing all of things inside of that. You know what? We could even be doing like 900. I don't know if they're all going to fit. I don't really feel like having the scrolling thing in this one, but if we have to, we will. However, if we can like avoid it, I'll definitely take that. So I'll put that on 900. I'll give myself a little section to explain what's going on here, so let's do that right away. New UI, panel, anchor this one at the very top. I'll also stretch this on the horizontal axis. So here we go. That's our first panel. Give it a small margin of 10 here, 10 on the other side, minus 10 on position Y, and it's going to be maybe 125 or 150 in width, or I mean height. 125 sounds good. So in here I'll be explaining, explaining what's going on with this mechanic, like explaining panel, or description sounds a little bit more appropriate. So that's fine, we reserved our space. Let's go down and actually start creating another panel. So that is the loot panel, where everything is going to be contained. Now this is going to stretch on both axes like it is right now. Give it a small margin here, the top, not yet. Margin of 10 on the right as well, margin of 10 at the very bottom. Now as for the top, just adjust with the description panel. So description panel is 125 in height, and it has like a margin here of 10, so you're now at 135. And then what's the margin here? We could say 5, so 140. Something like that. You just play around. When it looks good, you just don't touch it anymore. And here it is. That is our panel. Let's create another panel inside of that, and it is going to be our container, where every single loot is going to be contained. So let's just make sure that we scale this, stretch this on the horizontal axis, but not on the vertical one, and also put a different height. So I was thinking about something like 100. Is that too small? That might be too small. Maybe 125. That sounds a little bit better. Alright. And does 13 of those fit in here? I don't think so. So I think we're gonna have to add some kind of scrolling. Okay. Let's actually add the scrolling. So To add the scrolling, we are going to keep the loot panel as it is right now. We are also going to keep this panel, but there's going to be something in between these two. So I'll create a new UI, panel again, put it up here, stretch on both axes, and just drag my new panel, my old panel inside of that. So basically it goes like, this is the loot list, and this is the loot container, the container being the small one, so this guy. Now I know this is confusing, but whenever we add a scrolling mechanic, we need to have something to control the content, and that is not being affected by the thing that is controlling it. So basically, we need another object on top of that. Sorry if it is a little bit confusing, but we are going to get through it. Alright, so we've got our loot container. Let's actually define what we're going to be putting in here. So of course the image of the loot, we always do that. I'm on the wrong side, let me just flip this. Here we go, so I'm going to anchor this on the very left. Give it a small margin, as I always do. 15 sounds great. And then right next to that, well, let's actually rename our stuff so we don't get confused. This is the loot icon. Next to it, we will add some text. So as far as the text goes, let's actually check out the height. How much height can we get? I think 40 is good. 40 is half of that thing here, so. Yep, 40 sounds great. I'm going to put this text over here. Call this rock. Font size of best fit, actually. Forget the font size, just put it on best fit. I want this to be anchored on the left side and also be centered on the vertical axis. That does make sense. Maybe give it a different position X. Minus 30 sounds cool. And this is pretty much on best fit, so if you end up having gold ingots instead, it's going to be rescale or really badass unicorns. Yeah, we don't really have anything that is that lengthy. First one is rock. Let's put it in here. We are going to rename this for loot title. Duplicate it. Just below it is going to be the loot amount. So X7458. That's the best number I could come up with. And then just play around with the scale as much as you wish. So maybe increase the size of rock, something like that, and just move it wherever you wish. So we've got our text, we've got our description, our amount, and we are going to rename that for loot amount. The next thing we need is actually 3 different buttons, so this is where it gets a little bit confusing. Right click, create a new button, and then just afterward we are going to take this very button, put it on after the text. So it's really hard to see right there, but that's the line of my text. I'm just going to put it afterward. This one is the sell button, so I don't really want it to be that big in case you misclick it and then you sell all your unicorns. That would be quite sad. So I was thinking about something like 75, 50. Something really small, nice, pretty. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's going to be 2 more buttons up here. So we don't want this to be too close, but at the same time I don't want to be overlapping my text. So maybe even reduce the width a little bit to 65 instead. Height would be 80. You know what? Let's leave that on 60. Very small sell button. So this is the sell button. The text inside of it is going to be our sell amount. Sell for 75 for whatever. Gold, of course. I even think I'll be putting that on best fit. That sounds good. And maybe give it a small margin inside of it. That's the first time I actually gave a margin to a text. We should be doing that more often. But here we go. That is the sell button. I'm going to duplicate nothing actually. You know what? We'll just create it from scratch. Create a new button. Anchor it on the very right. Position X 0. Width is going to be something like really small, 50. And the height is going to be much taller, so 100 would be cool, I think. And I'll remove the text because the way I'll actually be telling the user what this is by using images. Kind of tired of having text in button, to be honest. So like there's going to be an arrow pointing upward or downward. So here's my button, that is the convert up or convert down. Let's call it let's do convert up, and duplicate it, that is going to be the convert down, just right next to it. And you can definitely tell that I'm not a UI guy at all. Let me just give myself some more space by reducing the size of the title and the amount. So maybe the width is going to be like on 130 now. And make sure that these are on the very left side here. There we go, we got more space now for that cell button. 80 by 60. And the two convert buttons are going to be size 60 each now. Very well, these are our new buttons. And that's pretty much it for the UI. So on this load container is going to be our new class. That's where we start coding. Again, we're going to be going quite fast because we have already covered all of these. Let's create a new class, loot menu container, something of the sort. Now inside of our code, let's delete everything, clean it up like we always do, and we're gonna go declare everything super fast. So we're handling UI again, Unity engine.ui. We are going to need a public loot, that we'll call loot, a public text, this is going to be the loot amount, a public button, this is the cell button, a public text that goes with that cell button, so the cell button text, a public button again, that is the convert down, and another public button which is the convert up. Alright, we've got all of these fields. Let's manually assign them right now as soon as they spawn. So this first one is the rock, of course this works, it's the one by default. The loot amount would be loot amount. The cell button would be cell button text is just inside of it. Convert down is this button, convert up is this one. Now I might have confused these two, but I don't know. We'll see later on when it actually happens. A good thing is, if I did confuse these two together, the user's never really gonna be able to notice, because we're gonna be using images instead of text or something. So let's go back in our code. We now have a reference to every single one of these fields, and we're gonna go ahead and start coding again super fast. Private void start, we're gonna assign a function to every single of our buttons, and to do that we actually need this function. So let's write our whole thing, all the function right away. So the second one, sorry, is the update container, the one we see pretty much everywhere in these kind of script. Next one is a private void sell, for whenever we decide to sell our currency, and finally a private void convert that takes in parameter a boolean. It's either convert up or convert down. So if this is true, I'll just assume that I'm being called from the convert up, and if it's false, from the convert down button. Very well, now we can go ahead and assign function to these buttons. Let's start with the convert down. Convert down dot on click add listener. We're adding convert false. And is this going to work? Let me just check really quickly. It is not. Okay, since we have a parameter in here, we're gonna have to do a lambda function in front of it like this. So this is what we do. And since we're doing convert down, we want to pass in the parameter false. Let's copy and paste that just below it. We're gonna do convert up on click add listener true. Next thing, the cell buttons. The cell button does not have a parameter. All we have to do is cell button on click add listener and cell. And finally, the update container call in the start, again like we always do, and we pretty much wrapped this function already. Let's go down, and we're going to type in int amount. We're going to get the amount of loot we currently have right now. So the tower instance loot at int loot. This way we get the amount of rocks we have, we get the amount of silk we have, And then we're going to get the price. So int price is equal to loot manager dot instance dot, and this is not going to work, I just realized. So hold on, there is something wrong here. We're calling the loot manager, but this one is not supposed to be here actually. The loot manager is only in the game. Okay, so we definitely have a problem here. We're going to be taking this function, the get loot price unit, and we're going to be moving it over to the stats helper, I believe. Let's quickly do that. So I'm going to hit F12. Let me close everything. I'm going to hit F12 on this. When I highlight it, it takes me to the loot manager. And now this function, the get loot price per unit, I'm going to take all of it, like literally all of it, from here to there. Hit Control X to cut. I don't want to see it here anymore. We're going to save this before we leave, and we're going to head over to the stats helper. At the very end of my stats helper, there should be some places where we do a lot of get. So yeah, exactly right here. I'll just be pasting it here. So Control V. And now we have our get loot price per unit inside of our stats helper and not the loot manager. And the way we coded this whole thing, nothing is actually going to break except some few references that are really easy to fix. Talking about those, let's save everything, go in our game and fix them. So loot manager does not contain a get loot price per unit. That's true. Let's double click on that. Let's change this for stats helper. Put it in your clipboard while you are at it. This now works. Okay, the next one is loot manager does not, it's the same error, but in a different script. So you're gonna be double clicking on the error, change loot manager, there's one here as well. You change loot manager for stats helper, basically. And do we have any other one? We don't. That's pretty much all we needed. So, good, I guess. Let's go back to our loot menu container. We've got interrupted, but that's fine. What else do we need to update in here? The loot amount text, obviously, so loot amount dot text is equal to, let's do small x, plus the tower instance loots at the index loot dot toString. Fair enough. The next one is the sell button text, which is going to equal sell for, then we'll do amount times price toString. And the next thing we need to do is nothing. Okay, so we've got pretty much all we needed already, so that's fairly simple. We've did our update container, we've did our start. Let's head over to the sell function, and this one I don't really want to rewrite the whole thing, so I'll just cheat a little bit, go over to my loot container, my original one. So where is it at? Loot container over here. Take the whole sell function, put it in here and just apply what I need. So this is going to work. This is also going to work. Update text is obviously out of the picture here, and the game UI is also out of the picture. So instead of calling these, I'll be calling update container instead. Very well. Now the convert. Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit funky. So we have to convert currency. Let's first check if we have enough of that very currency we're trying to convert right now. So int amount is equal to the tower. Let's actually just take this. I'm getting tired of just writing the same code over and over again. We're getting the amount of that very loot. So if we're on the rock, we get how many rocks do we have. And if that amount is bigger or equal than 10, then we're ready to actually trade something. Now, are we trading up or are we trading down? We still don't know, but let's just make sure that the tower instance loots at this very index, the rock index, is minus equal to 10. So before we do anything else, before we even check are you converting your currency down or up, we remove it right away. Now, if it is up, that means you're trying to convert rocks into the second one, which is logs. So what we're going to be saying here is we're going to be saying the tower.instance loot plus 1 is plus equal to 5. and else we do the exact same thing. But instead of saying +1, we do -1 and we do plus equal to 20. So if we have logs and we're trying to convert them back in rocks, we're losing 10 logs, but we're getting 20 rocks. So that could actually be a good trade in that specific case, because after that it just gets a little bit weird and it's not ever a good trade. Okay, but now you're telling yourself, well, if we're trying to convert this currency down, if we're trying to convert rocks down, we're gonna get a crash. And that is right, but it's never going to happen, because once we're done with this, we'll just toggle this button off. Yep. So quickly check the error. What's the error? It's a .text again. Okay. Very well. And that's pretty much it, actually. Once we're done with this, we are going to do a update container. And this is where also it gets a little bit weird. We do an update container, but only on our rock. Say we're transferring rock into logs, then we update the rocks. We see that we lose 10 rocks, but we're never going to see that we gain 5 logs. And that is because we're not actually updating the other container. We're only updating our container, but we also affect the other one when we do a convert. And we're going to do something really messed up now. I hope you guys are going to follow. This is not very clean, I guess, but it does work in our case. Here's what it's going to look like in the end. So we have our loot container. We're going to have other loot container just below it, such as the log. And that log needs to be updated. So if we take a look at this hierarchy here, our loot menu container is on this object. What I'm going to say is I'm going to ask this guy, call your parent to the loot list, and then get the index I am at right now +1 or -1. So we're going to be able to play in between these, basically. And once you're on that object, I'm not even going to do a get component loot menu container. I'm simply going to send a message. We're going to use the send message function from Unity, and it's going to call the update container by itself. Let's actually have a look at how this is written down in the code. So myself, my parent, get child. Now I gotta be telling which index I'm getting at, but I need to know what index I'm in as a children. So I do transform dot get sibling index. This is going to return my position in the array. Then I do either +1 or -1, depending on if I convert up or down. Send message, and send message is like a weird function. It's basically you're gonna type in a string in here, in this case update container, make sure you do no mistake in this, and it's going to call the function called update container, so this guy, on the other container. So it's a little bit weird what we do, but it works, so I'll just be pasting it down here as well. We do a -1 instead of doing a +1, and that's pretty much all we need. Let's give it an actual look in the game. Now this is going to crash both ways since we don't have any other containers. So let's just go ahead and do our UI really quickly. Under the loot list, I will put a vertical layout group. Don't force on height, but do force on width. So I'd like the width to be forced. On my loot container, I'll add a layout element. Minimum height would be what did we set? I think we set 125. That does make sense. So minimum height 125, and we can now go ahead and duplicate this. So here's another one. This is logs. We can also change the name up here so we don't get confused. Duplicate it again. Change the name. This is silk, and we also need to change it down here as well. Do a last one, so duplicate once more. This is going to be planks, and put plank in there. Very well, we can now go ahead and give this a try. Click here, go on the loot. We have none of those, so if I click here or there, doesn't matter, it's going to stop at this very if statement. So if we don't have 10, it's just not going to work at the first place. And we don't even know if this works, the sell button either, so we're gonna need to cheat a little bit and go inside of the regedit, and I have it open, so why not? Okay, so the first one is the rock. Let's give ourselves, if I can find it, let's give ourselves 30 rocks. Then the second one would be the log. Let's give ourselves 60 logs. Third one would be the silk, 90 silk. And the plank, 120 planks. So it should go like 30, 60, 90, and then 120. 30, 60, 90, 120, and we get the prices. And yeah, that does make sense. Now, if I try to convert, I'll just start with the logs because I know the rock is going to crash at one point. I'll click on this left button here. I have 60 logs. I now have 50 logs, and this was 30, it's now 50. So as you can tell, if I click up like this, it's going to send 10 of my logs upward. And this is going to give 20 rocks. Now, if I click down, logs should be at 40, and we should get 95 silk. And we do. Everything seems to be working just great. Now, if I try to convert this currency up, and by up I mean as a bigger currency, not in the graph, because like if you have a look in the graph, this doesn't make any sense if I say up, but it is up in the array. Boom, we crash, and that sucks. So all we're gonna be doing really is to hide this for the very last currency. Now, if we just give it a small try again, and test out the sell, let's sell all our silk for, let's actually check how much gold we have. So we have 32,000 gold. Let's sell this for 9,000. And it's not going to update here, I just realized, but it did add to the real amount. So we're gonna have to find a way to actually link them together. I think I'll be doing that at the very end of the tutorial though, because I don't think it's really useful right now. We're gonna be able to tell or get some kind of initialize whenever we click on the hub object. Either way, my research is complete, so I'm quite happy about that. This works almost good. So let's fix our problem. We can convert down here. We're going to be removing this button, so we don't need this button on the very rock itself. Let's go over to our hub scene. Take our button for the loot. I mean the first loot, the loot container number 1. And here it is, this one. Just make sure it's not interactable. Simple as that. We don't need to delete it. In fact, if you delete it, you're going to get an error. It's going to tell you that whenever it's trying to add the function convert up or convert down to it, doesn't work because there's no button. Which is real, it's the actual case. So let's just put it on false, interactable false, and we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep spawning our thing one by one. We've got the plank, let's do the bricks. And I guess that would be the most annoying part of this tutorial, where we just do copy paste. Next one would be iron ingot. So title, iron ingots. Does it still look good? Yeah, it's still acceptable. Next would be the gold ingot. And we go out of bound, but let's just keep going for now. We'll do the mask just right after this. Sapphire. Is this written properly, by the way? I don't even know. I'll just assume it is. Emerald. And ruby. Cat, obviously. Well, it almost felt better just putting it in all caps, I think. Because why not? Okay, next one would be the fox. And finally the unicorn. Okay, and on the unicorn one, we need to disable the right button, so this guy here. Disable that, and for some reason, I don't know if you guys can tell, my camera is like sideways and it's not it's not cool. Oh well. So here we are, we've made the whole UI thing, and we are now ready to actually try this. We don't have any scrolling mechanic though, so how exactly should we go about doing this? We are going to go on our loot list, and our loot list is going to have, I think it's a content size fitter. Vertical fit is going to be minimum, like that. And let's actually give this a try with a scroll rect. So over on my loot panel, I'll add a scroll rect. The content is going to be the loot list, like this. So drag and drop in here. Remove the horizontal. I don't want to be scrolling on the horizontal. And the movement is clamped. Okay. I'm going to exit this. Go in my game, find my loot. And as you can tell, it does clamp perfectly where I want it to. There's of course a few little things that we need to fix, but it does clamp properly. Let's start with the first thing to fix, the fact that we can actually see beyond this container. So we're gonna go back on the hub, find our loot menu, and under the loot panel, loot list, or should we do the loot panel or the loot list? The loot list. So under the loot list, we're gonna add a mask. And this does not seem to work. Why is that? Oh, it's probably because it is doing a content size fitter. My bad. So let's add the mask on top of the loot panel instead. Yeah, that does make more sense. Sorry about this. So we've got this. There's one more problem. The fact that we start in the middle and we'd like to actually start from the very top. This is easily fixed by going on the loot list, removing this stretch. We're going to be putting it on anchor at the very top like this. Also hold shift to have the pivot point, the anchor. Position X is obviously 0, so let's put that on 0. And position Y is also 0 in this case. This is what we end up with. We should be able to do everything we wish at this point. And let's go here. It starts perfectly from the rock. We have the sell button, which I think works. Planks, bricks, all that kind of good stuff. Let's convert down some logs. Or I did convert up actually. No, convert down, so I did the proper thing. Now let's actually buy some silk. Keep buying stuff until we have I don't know. Let's just go as far as we can go with this. So we got 15 gold ingots and we got 5 sapphire out of this. So even at this level, we were able to have some sapphire. So if our research actually asks us to get some sapphire, then we can actually get it at a pretty early level. We could also sell those and waste all this effort. Well guys, I think that's pretty much it. We just need to add a little description and we will be good with this very loot panel. So I'm not quite sure what I'll be writing in here. Let's just have a look really quickly. Remove the ISO. Cool. Under description, let's right click, add a new text. I'll just put it on the center, scale it on both axes. Clean it up basically. And this is what I'm going to say. So yeah, something like that. So I wrote a whole paragraph in here. But basically you just put whatever you wish, whatever that you feel is like self-explanatory for the user. And that is pretty much going to be it, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. If you did, please leave me a like. Really appreciate that, as always. And if you'd like to leave me a comment, please do so in the comment section below, if that isn't obvious enough. Or on the Facebook page, which you can find in the description. And other than that, please subscribe for more tutorial like these. Almost done with this one, guys. Don't give up again. I'll keep repeating it until we're done. And yeah, so thanks for watching again. I'll see you in the next one.